Okay.
Here we go. We out here with Justin. Thank you for joining me, man.
Absolutely.
Also known as Mr. Schofield, right?
Yeah.
Teaching now?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So we met. This is at Michigan State. We were recording it in a really fancy room.
Yes.
Dope.
Erickson Hall.
Yeah, we met in Calc 1.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That was pretty legit.
Yeah.
But now you're teaching. How did you switched majors, right?
I did. I was all around the place.
Yeah. Well, how did you settle on teaching?
It was tough. I loved working with people, and I was trying to figure out the best way to do that. So I was jumping around. First I was at economics, then I was kinesiology because I wrestled in high school. I love wrestling. So I was like that coaching, maybe kinesiology, athletic science. And I was like, I really wanted to get more of the social aspect. So I was kind of undecided my first year, just taking like kind of social studies classes, elective classes. And then I did a summer academic orientation program. So I was leading tours, I was leading small groups. I was really, building my confidence, speaking with people, talking about my passions. And I just really enjoyed helping people and helping their transition to the school. I was like, this is very educational. I could see myself. And even people told me like you'd be a good teacher, and that was like a really good compliment I got. So I switched in the summer, the fall after that summer, and my sophomore year I switched in, and I also switched in to James Madison College. So we
really switched it up.
I did, not calculus. That was just an elective. I always enjoyed. I wouldn't say enjoyed. I always was good at math. It wasn't really my passion, so I didn't want to do math anymore. But the social aspect of things, working with people, has always been my passion. So.
Did you have like an influential teacher that like pushed you towards this decision? Like anyone that you can think of?
Yeah, two people. My AP government teacher in high school. The guy was a legend. He was teaching there 30 years. He really connected with his students. He made government fun. We did, mock trials.
He made government fun.
Make
sure you heard that properly.
Yes.
That's a tough subject to make fun.
You got to have the right teacher. That's what happened, and that's kind of what drove me to be a teacher. A lot of people I talk to, I teach social studies, so they're like, "Oh, I hated history," or like, "I hated social studies. It was so boring."
But for me, it was just the teacher.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't so much the subject. Like, so I never actually disliked any subject strongly. But if because I like math. But if the math teacher that we had sucked, like our Calc 1 professor, a lot of professors just don't care about
Casey Matchin. Remember his name?
You remember his name?
Yeah, he's a legend. He was a good teacher, right?
I actually enjoyed him.
Yeah.
I just wish that he was like, I don't know the word for it, because he wasn't a bad teacher. I'm not saying that. I am saying that I don't know. I wish he connected with students more, but I kind of understand in a college environment it's harder.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot harder. But it's I didn't mean to cut you off, I apologize. Who's the second person? I know the first one was
he just made government fun, and I really, I was just like, yeah, I can do that. Like, he related with students, and it was just students liked him, and I think that teacher can be, a good role model for people, for their students. But ultimately it was my wrestling coach that really, inspired me to push myself in new ways, to believe in myself. And if it wasn't in my life, I'd be a different person today. And I was like, if I could,
really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wrestling and himself, I was kind of I wouldn't say a shy kid. I was always a small kid, lacked confidence in myself in high school. But, wrestling really made me believe in myself and believe like I can do things. I am powerful. I am capable of doing great things, and I can achieve my goals if I work hard for them. And he made me believe that. He believed
you would be a good teacher.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I want to do for my students. I coach now after school. I'm doing that. I'm telling kids to reach even higher than they actually set their goals at, and I think it's been very helpful for them. But also as teaching, I want to be a good role model for students and for them to believe in themselves.
Something I really like about like what you said. So I believe a teacher's job is to like work their way out of your life.
Yeah.
In a sense of like, because if you're always dependent on your teacher,
they're
not doing a good job as being a teacher. Because if your wrestling coach only taught you like. Because the thing is, he gave you all these tools, right?
Yes.
But so now you don't need him anymore because he did his job.
Yes, right.
So that's what, in my mind, that's what a teacher's supposed to do. Like, they're supposed to give this to you, and it's like, now you're good. You have it. I did my job as a teacher.
Yes. Very good point. You're trying to teach skills and tools. You're not. As a teacher, we don't want to just give students answers all the time.
Yeah, you're just checking the camera. My bad. You're good.
You don't want to give students answers all the time. Like, oh, what's the answer to this? And then you give it to them. You want to have them work through it so they can do it themselves. That famous quote that you can teach someone, you can give someone a fish, you feed them for a day.
Yeah.
But if you teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. So I think that's very, very important as we go through, as we look at our education system. We're not. My mentor teacher actually says, we're not a welfare system. I'm not going to give you everything. You need to work for it, and I'm here to facilitate that learning exercise and that process. And it is a process, and it takes time. But the teacher's there to facilitate that and help grow the learning goals and outcomes.
That's a really good way of putting it, actually. I had a discussion about, like, we're just going to deviate for a quick second, talk about money. I don't like to talk about money, but we're going to talk about it since this is kind of relevant here. When you, because, like, I've heard this distinction where it's, like, the top 1% of, like, this country owns, like, the majority of the wealth.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it's, like, the bottom 99 have it lost. I mean, here's the thing about that. This problem cannot be solved by the 1% just giving all their money away. That's not gonna fix it, because it's like those 1% of people that they know how to use that money, like, because financial education is not taught in schools, and a lot of the thing is like even the same thing with that fish. If you if one guy had like 100 fish and everyone else only had one fish, if he distributed like all of his 100 amongst those guys, the people who even though they have more fish than him now, the fishermen still set. Those guys aren't.
Yeah, because they don't know how to fish.
Because they don't know how to fish. Right. So even if you give all the money of the top 1% to the whole 99, they're not doing better. Because they don't know how to fish. Like, it's only the guy who made the money in the first place. He's set. That's the difference. So
you'd advocate for using that money to invest in education programs and education and maybe job programs.
That's what bothers me.
Instead of just giving them charity money and just here's a house or something.
That's what bothers me about people who like say the top 1% have all this. It's like, we need it. It's like, no, if you had it, you wouldn't know what to do with it. That's the problem. I was like, what you need is like, think, how did they get there? Why are they there, and why? Like, I'm not in the top 1%, right? So it's like, why are they here and why are you here? I want to get there, and I know how they got there. I recommend reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. That book, out of control, incredible. However, that's what I was trying to get at. Like with that fish analogy, it's like just giving someone like money or giving someone something there's no value in it. It's like, it's a very temporary thing. But like when you give someone confidence, when you give someone like strength of value in themselves, you can't pay for that.
That's priceless.
And that's what I think is like, that's where the money should go. So, and like what I was trying to get to with that is like, many people don't, like, their teachers aren't telling them where to go for information. They want to believe that like you have all the answers. And I think that's a big problem, because a lot of, like, in my mind, a lot of teachers are feeling like almost victimized that so many people, like, how often does it happen to you that a student has, like, I know like you're just beginning of this, but you've heard of people, like, students being offended by certain teachers, just like the clothing they wear? There's cases of actually like teachers who, like, in my sister's high school also, there was a teacher who came in who had like a Marvel t-shirt on.
A teacher,
yeah. And it was like Iron Man or something. Some superheroes on the shirt, right? I don't remember the exact thing. But it was a Marvel shirt. A student actually complained that like that represented X, Y, and Z. The teacher was suspended.
Was it because it wasn't professional, or is it because they were representing Marvel?
It was. I don't know if it was. That was the first thing that crossed my mind. But this was on like it was like a field day sort of thing. So it wasn't just like a regular Tuesday. Like, no, this is like it was like a half day to school, and it was like everyone was like, it wasn't Halloween. It's not Halloween, but it was a day of which it was like a pajama day sort of thing, like a superhero day. It was like one of those. Right. But it wasn't exactly like, I don't know how to say it in the most accurate way. Like, it wasn't a regular school day. It was a day where it's like people were allowed to wear like dress casually.
And that's fine. Fine. We do that at our school. We have casual Fridays usually.
Like that's what.
But in terms of students being offended by things, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. Just using a Marvel and a student getting offended because he's wearing Marvel. Is that what you're saying?
The exact reason was something like the character on his shirt. The character was Iron Man. I know that. I don't know what this guy complained about exactly, but I remember like at the end of the day, the teacher was suspended for like a week or two. Does that ever concern you? About maybe like offending or something? Yeah, I mean, not knowing you're offending someone. Like who would have thought? Like, I saw Iron Man shirt. Like, that's not the first thought. Isn't like, am I going to offend someone with Iron Man? Like,
It's tough. I mean, I think one of the biggest jobs as a teacher, you need to be open-minded. I mean, you're one person with only your previous experiences that are shaping your perspectives right now and how you're thinking. You have 30 to 40 other students in that classroom with different prior experiences, a different lens they're working with and watching life and living life. And you have to be cognizant of that. And if you were to say something, and I work in Detroit, I work with a predominantly African American population, so I want to make sure that I watch what I say, and that. But my classes at MSU have given me the cultural competence to be able to work in that environment. And you always want to have social justice in mind when teaching, but when working with students, you have to be cognizant of what might offend. At the same time, you're a teacher. You're walking that balance between giving them new perspectives, because there are people that think differently, and I do want to open them to that perspective. But at the same time, I don't want to attack their identity. I think there's a fine line there.
I agree.
I think there's ways that you can open up their mind to things, but also in ways that aren't attacking their identity. And now, but with the climate we're working with under President Trump, where a lot of different identities are getting attacked, it's hard navigating that at times. And it's hard as a teacher working in Detroit. It's hard to show the pro-Trump side of things, or it is hard doing that. I tell them this is how people think, and I try to be as neutral as possible. At the same time, your teacher bias,
especially in your position, like you have to be neutral.
You have to be neutral, and at times it's difficult, especially when you're working with students that tend to think it's very homogeneous in terms of their thoughts. I mean, not all of them, but the majority in that environment.
Not just in that environment. You can go to a different environment. They might feel like
opposite.
Exactly.
And so you gotta, you want to teach both sides of things, and I think that's valuable as they're because ultimately, as social studies teachers, you're preparing them to be citizens in a democracy.
You especially as a social studies teacher.
Absolutely. So they need to be able to interact with people who think differently and be able to process different thought processes and perspectives.
Yeah, just because someone thinks differently than you, that doesn't make them less of a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, so you got to understand, why do they think that way? Like, what life do they live to lead them to their decisions today? It's like there's a lot that goes into it. Maybe that's the biggest, like, do you think it's is that difficult to explain to especially like young students today, is that the world is not black and white?
Mm-hmm. It's complicated.
There's not even an area that's shaded gray. It's shaded like purple, black, brown, blue, green. Math is black and white. That's it.
People might argue that one. Math teachers might.
Yeah, math teachers might even. Yeah, like once you get to like higher level physics and stuff, now we're all over the place. But
yeah, it's tough. I mean, when you're trying to create not even like citizens in the United States, but global citizens as well. I think one of the biggest things you can teach kids is empathy, and be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to look through life in their lens. And that's one of the toughest things you can do. We're always thinking about ourselves and our needs and our wants and our lives, but to put ourselves in someone else's shoes and look through life through a different lens and see how their life is and maybe how they're thinking, I think that is one of the most profound learning opportunities and in education today.
And you taught in Mexico, right?
Correct.
When did you teach there? Like last summer?
I was there last year. I lived in Mexico from January to May of 2018.
Did you find it difficult to connect to those students from a different culture and different part of the world?
Compared
to here.
It's interesting. I mean, kids are kids. I think whatever country they're from, they think similarly. The youth, teenagers. There's a lot of similarities. And you're asking the comparison between the two?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Well, there's certain things that you found easier with like one group than the other, just from like a cultural and like location difference.
Honestly, I mean, there's different cultures. I mean, the students. But kids learn the same way. So at the same time, like I'm using different ways.
That's a good answer. Kids learn the same way. Yeah.
I mean, well, I should rephrase that. Kids, you need.
I know what you meant by that. It's like they all have similar learning patterns. It doesn't matter what language you speak or where you're. It's like
exactly. Like you want to differentiate your learning style because you have some audio learners that learn best through hearing, who learn best through visuals, who learn best from reading. You have different learning styles, so you're catering to that as an educator. So I was doing that in Mexico, but also here, and I've had success in both routes. But the key to education with working different is relationship building. So connecting to their lives. And in Mexico, I love Mexican culture. I love the food. I love the music. I love the language. I love speaking Spanish. And although I'd be using English in the classroom for them to get more English competency, I would always try to connect with that ways. And whether it's pop artists, movies they've watched, I think I can do that in both settings, and just investing time in the students' lives and what they care about, and that's going to help you teach them, because at the end of the day, students don't care how much you know until they see how much you care. And that's really the key. That's one thing I always remember.
Wait, say that one more time.
Students,
just tell them right there. I think that's something important.
Yeah, students don't care how much you know until they see how much you care, and I believe in that wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's true though.
Where did you learn that? That's really
I mean, I take a lot of education classes.
Okay, so that's actually really insightful. I never heard about it that way.
You gotta have a level of trust and connection with students. That's why a lot of teachers, they'll spend the first week or two just getting to know their students, doing icebreakers, doing activities before they even hit the content. It's like, how am I gonna teach about the Civil War? And it's like, you don't even know who I am as a teacher. I don't know who you are as a student.
Yeah.
I don't know your needs, how you learn best. I mean, teachers gotta invest time into creating those relationships, and it's not easy. It takes time. It's a process, but it's worth it.
When do you know you've gone too far?
You have to walk a professional line. Like, you don't want to be friends with your students. You want to be buddy with them. Hey, like, what's up, bro? You got to watch the language you use. Yeah. Bro, man, like ways you talk to your friends with. It's always professional. Call them by their names. Going to see them, supporting their extracurriculars is great, but being all buddy with them, opening up too much about yourself is like your personal life, like getting drinks with your friends. Like, you wouldn't want to talk about that. It's always professional. They want to know your interests and stuff you do, like exercising or sports you like. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to get to the point where they see you as a friend, and they can kind of tell you everything. There's always that line, like. There's always in line, and I'm still learning where that line is. But from my experience so far, I've walked it pretty well, and students haven't felt like they're buddy with them. In Mexico, it was a little bit tough because it's my first ever teaching job.
That was your first ever teaching job?
First ever teaching job.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm not even certified yet. I'm going to be getting certified this April.
Okay.
So I was literally thrown into a full-time position. Had my own classroom, no mentor or teacher.
How'd you get there? Through MSU or?
No, it was totally by myself. I went through a different program. So the first month I was in Mexico, I took a teaching English as a foreign language certification class. So I took a 4-week course, had to teach English, because my certification's only in teaching social studies and Spanish. So I wanted to be able to teach English there. Mm-hmm. So I took a 1-month course in the beautiful Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And it was gorgeous. I went in January. I dodged this winter, and I was on the beach in 80-degree weather. I miss it. A year ago, it's actually funny. A year ago today was my first day on the job. February 1st, 2018. It was my first time in the school, and here I was. I'm still learning really how teaching is. I was young. I didn't have this yet. So I had the baby face.
Well, yeah, but when I first saw him, I was like, yo, I like this.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you look dope, actually.
So I had the baby face. Students didn't know how old I was, but I was 22 at the time. And and it was, they think that cool young teacher. You don't want to be that cool young teacher.
Oh, you don't?
Because you don't. Oh. Because students will kind of use that and get away with stuff. Oh, I didn't do my homework, man. It's all good, though. It's all good, though.
Yeah.
And, no.
I've definitely tried that.
Exactly.
I've certainly tried that.
It sounds nice. It sounds fun. But I've learned that could be very dangerous. And it could be your downfall. And it kind of was. I wasn't too chummy with them. But they kind of saw that as my youth. As
an experience,
yeah, and be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. Like they felt like they could get away with stuff because I just wasn't experienced, and they did get away with stuff, and I was just trying to process things. So it was a lot of reflection, stuff I can improve on. But I've made a lot of those changes and doing better now. I'm teaching in Detroit.
Listen, man, that's our time.
Is it really?
That's it. It passes by that fast.
Shit. Okay.
Look, man, thank you for coming out. I'm so glad we had this discussion.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Mr. Schofield, you guys. All right. Thank you for watching. Stay fresh. Stay golden.
Yes.